Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I am your host, Casey Fatchett. If this is your first time listening, in addition to providing you with entertaining and informative photography content, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. Right now, we've stopped into the space station to resupply and see if anybody here can give us some directions to the coordinates we got for the Caribbean Nebula. Feels like it was a really long time ago when Hamdo Bane gave us those directions, and he just haven't been able to get there until now. Excuse me, would you be able to give us some directions? Fine, no need to bite my head off, man. Just asking for some directions. Oh, the Caribbean. You know someone who can give us directions? Great, I'll follow you. Just give me a second to introduce my podcast. On this episode of the Nerdy Photographer Podcast, our friend and frequent guest, Anthony Collins, stops in to discuss the worst technical advice you, our listeners, have ever received and submitted to us on Reddit. So sit back and hear the crazy advice right after this short break. Hold up, I'm right behind you. What's up?
Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news.
Give me the bad news first.
Well, your website is incredibly slow and it's susceptible to being hacked.
I had a suspicion that was the case. What do you prescribe?
Use SiteGround as your website host. They offer fast, secure hosting for small and medium-sized websites, as well as managed WordPress hosting.
Can I pick up SiteGround at my local pharmacy?
No. You'll need to go to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/siteground to find out more.
Thanks. So, what's the good news?
You have 6 months to live.
That's good news?
Better than a week.
Well, you've got me there, Doc. Hey, photographers. The Nerdy Photographer Podcast wants to hear your stories. That's right. If you have an amazing, crazy, funny, heartwarming, or even tragic or disturbing story you've personally experienced as a photographer, we want to hear about it. Go to nerdyphotographer.com and submit your story, or stories, doesn't have to be just one, and we may feature them on the podcast. And if you want, you can tell the story yourself on the podcast. We would love to have you on as a guest. What have you got to lose? Share your photography story with us and see what develops. Boop, 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 boop. All right, welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I am back once again with frequent guest of the show, Anthony Collins. Welcome, Anthony.
Yes, you're a frequent flyer here, Anthony Collins here.
Frequent flyer. In real life and in podcast life, a frequent flyer.
Yeah, well, up until 2 months ago, yes.
We're currently on week 8 of pandemic life, and I'm starting to look a little bit like Beetlejuice walking around the house. But
oh man, it is something. It is really something.
Today, we're going to talk about something I find is going to be, I think, a very, very fun topic to explore. I reached out both, into the interwebs and Reddit and Facebook and various other places to search for the worst technical photography advice that people have been given. And are you ready, Anthony? Are you ready to explore?
I am ready. This should be very interesting.
Number 1, turn your ISO way up in bright sunlight to make your images brighter.
Yeah, see, but that's not even
doesn't make any sense.
The realm of. Yeah, that's not even in the realm of bad technical advice. That's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know where that even comes from. That's just absurd.
That might be somebody who thinks that it's actually, if you have harsh shadows, like trying to overcome harsh shadows by like bumping up the ISO. Like when I think about it, because I like all I did was collect these and kind of like sort through and like cut some of them.
Yeah,
but I didn't
understand.
And I'm just like, I'm sort of like, I'm processing this verbally as it's happening, Anthony.
Right, I got you.
So
I got you.
So what if you just crank the ISO way up and that would make the image brighter? You know, shadows. It's like having a fill flash, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's who needs a film? Who needs a California Sunbound?
Well, those things are expensive, man.
They sure are. For what they do, they really are expensive.
I just buy some PVC piping and some, some white fabric and just like stretch it over there. That's all you need. All right.
I get those 5-in-1 discs and an assistant.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need that stuff. Next one. This image is bad because it breaks the rule of blank.
Thirds.
No, they just said the rule of whatever. Yeah, thirds, whatever law of photography.
Oh, they just said the rule of blank. Yeah. This image is bad because it breaks some rule. That's just ridiculous. Because if there were that many rules, we could plug them into a program and then just automate the whole process.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. There are certain guidelines for certain types of photography that you work with. Not all photography, some. Number one important guideline: make the client happy.
Yeah.
They don't care about your Fibonacci. They don't care about your thirds. Make them happy.
It's the golden ratio.
Yeah, I got the golden ratio. Taking their gold and getting it in my pocket is the golden ratio.
That's the golden ratio right there.
That's the golden ratio, yeah.
Next one. You don't want to get into flash photography.
That's funny. That's like almost like someone saying, "Oh, dude, you don't want to start using zoom lenses. You got to use just primes."
You don't I think the subtitle on that advice should be, "I don't want to learn about flash photography."
Yeah, some people don't want to learn. They want to. They. I meet all kinds of people that say they're photographers, and you say, just in just casual conversation, what flash are you using, or what kind of lens spectrum do you have, and they've got one prime lens and no flash.
Yeah,
and that might work for your Instagram photos, when the sun's up. But
I'm a natural light photographer.
Yeah, to me, that's the. I know that we're going to get email.
Yeah, I know there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be a reaction, but whatever.
But that is like the laziest thing you can say to someone. Is that I'm a natural light photographer?
Well, and that's the thing. It's we talked about on another episode about video, and I had this videographer who showed up to a wedding, and this place was a cave. Like the venue was, I think we've discussed the venue before, but it's underneath the 59th Street Bridge.
Oh yeah, Gustavino's.
Yeah, and it's like at night. It's dark. And this videographer was
in a grotto.
Yeah, this videographer was telling me like, "Wow, it's really dark in here," and it was like 5:00 in August, and I was just like,
"Yeah, wait 3 more hours."
my second photographer and I were looking at each other like, "You think it's dark now, girl? It's gonna get real dark in here." And she's like, "Really?" And she's handheld for video, totally handheld. I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be really bad." And she's talking to me like every half an hour to 45 minutes, coming up to me going, "Wow, it just keeps getting darker in here. I didn't think I could get any darker." And it's
your homework, kid.
Yeah,
do your homework.
Well, and then I find out that she only did natural light barn weddings. Rustic, whatever, because it's, doesn't require learning lighting.
And not to poo-poo that.
Natural light.
I don't want to get letters. Look, that's wonderful. If that's what you do, that's wonderful. But tell someone before they hire you to shoot an indoor wedding that's what you do.
Whatever you say, like natural light photography, whatever you are, whether you use natural light and flash, whether you predominantly flash, whether you're predominantly natural light. Photography literally comes from the word painting with light. You have to know how to shape the light. It is part of your job to learn. Even if you're just doing natural light photography, you have to learn how to work with the available light. That means that you're not going to be able to shoot handheld video when it's, incredibly dark. You're going to need to use like a monopod or a tripod because you can't, walk around holding it in your hand. Like you need to learn those things.
Any kind of gimbal you can get, wide prime glass, a gimbal, maybe bounce some light. I will say this about Gustavinos. Not only is it dark, but it's super, super orange in there.
Yes.
There is off the spectrum, like
it's so tinted. Everything gets tinted. Yeah.
It's brutal. And
yeah.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, and this next one I feel is related to that one. I feel like the same person may have left this. The next one, always shoot wide open.
It's funny that you say that, because as you watch social media, television, everything, there's this real big trend right now. Everything is super wide open.
Shallow focus.
If you watch 60 Minutes every day, they must spend so much money on big, wide prime lenses, because there is stuff that's got no depth of field, none. And I made a point to show something to my wife the other day. The one camera that was on the announcer had to be like a 1.2 or something, but they obviously didn't bring two of those lenses, because the person they're interviewing, more of the background from the same scene, let's say they were on park benches, more of their background was clear, so they probably only had like an f4 or 5.6, because that stuff's so expensive,
right? Especially for like video. Yeah.
That's why these companies are making all these super wide lenses. It's for video, 1.2s and 1.4s, and Nikon introduces this ridiculous 0.95 lens that no one's ever going to buy.
Stanley Kubrick's going to buy that lens from the grave.
Well, actually, if you're that good to buy it, someone's giving it to you.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you're good enough to need a 0.95. Nikon goes, ooh, Stanley Kubrick needs this. We have to make sure he gets one in his hand.
Yeah, because he's the only person living or dead that would attempt to use that in film. Like, come on, like photography aside, like you can maybe like shoot a still portrait and then and you're going to get like 1/8 of an inch depth of field. But it's just always like, just always shoot wide open. It's like, this is something I dealt with 10 years ago with a second shooter for weddings. And we had worked together on a couple of weddings, and I'd get his photos back, and I would notice that he was shooting most of the entire reception at 1.4 on a 24 millimeter, like prime. And I was just like, dude, 3/4 of your photos are out of focus. And he goes, yeah, but that other quarter.
Yeah, but the other quarter.
And I'm like,
that's a great answer. Yeah, but the other quarter is
great. They're great. I'm like, well, no, because like I was still like, there are other things I still want to see. I try not to go below 2 at weddings. I mean, unless maybe if it's a portrait. But even if my most artsy, I try not to go below 2. And, he'd give me 3,000 to 4,000 images at the end of a day. And I was like, I can't use the vast majority of these, because
if you're going to shoot wide open like that, you better make sure that your focusing system on your camera is really, really good.
This was 10 years ago, man. This is,
Oh, forget it. Yeah. So forget it. It's useless. Yeah, I mean, there's some very great things about shooting wide open. There's some great things about some prime lenses that shoot wide open, particularly for portraits, indoor corporate stuff where you can drop the background out of focus. But like everything else, it can be overused. Yeah. If you remember 20 years ago, everyone was doing the old HDR thing, and everything HDR.
And before that,
and it wasn't Wasn't it called David something?
Yeah, that sort of steroidal HDR look, like the really hyper HDR. Before that, there was the selective coloring. That's more of a 90s thing.
Yeah, you get that too. I just think that instead of trying to be someone else, you should try to find your own voice. And because you can get into all these presets and stylized presets and film looks and all that. I mean, you can do that stuff till your head explodes. And yes, there's no right or wrong, but it's not you if it's not your voice. Don't do it just because you think it looks cool.
Right.
Do it because it's you.
Yeah. What do you want to achieve? The sage advice and wisdom and mentorship of Anthony Collins, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to bring it to you.
Please make your donations at. Right.
We're going to put up our Patreon link at the end of the show. All right.
Yeah,
next
exactly.
one. Here's a little caveat put at the beginning of this one. In hindsight, this is when I should have known that I should have fired this guy as our second photographer. So it's kind of related to what we were just talking about. The guy said, don't just snap, snap, snap away like a machine gun. You got to wait for the right moment. The guy turned in 37 photos after 5 hours of shooting an event.
Oh my God.
And the speakers were blinking in all of them.
Oh my God.
While I think there's a happy medium in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think you might want to move it back, swing the pendulum back the other way a little bit.
Yeah. Like, go ahead.
Wow. That's just wow. I don't even know what to say. That's just wow.
Yeah, it's like I honestly am somebody who says, don't be a machine gunner, be a sniper. Like, you got to wait for your moment. You might take 3 shots. I always take 3 shots of like speakers, especially because people may close their eyes. But I'm not just a spray and pray person either. I don't just hold down the shutter hoping to get one shot. I think there's a happy medium in there somewhere where you're taking more than one photo every 20 minutes. And it's also, not, taking 1,000 pictures an hour either.
Right. I tell those people that are blasting away, and even in professional gigs, you come across professional shooters that are just blasting away, and you think to yourself, man, you got to edit through all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, why?
I don't want to give up anybody's name, but I worked elbow to elbow with a professional photographer, and we were covering basically the same event. And he was going back to his hotel room, and I said, what are you doing tonight? And he's like, I got to go through my images. I go, well, how much did you shoot today? He said, I shot 6,000 images. I go, wow, I only shot 3,000. And I thought I was shooting a lot because I was excited to be at the event that I was at. So I thought I was shooting a lot. It's like 6,000 images. Good Lord, man. We call that video.
Yeah.
I mean, 6,000 images. You just shot video.
You just stop motion that.
You just shot 8K video. Yeah. Good Lord. I mean, holy smokes. Yeah. I mean, you got to find your sweet spot because you got to edit through all that stuff. And editing is time.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't cost anymore. It's time.
Yeah. Time is money, though. Time is money.
It's time.
Next one. I saw a YouTube tutorial on shooting portraits with window light where the photographer recommended setting the shutter speed to 1/60th or 1/125th. She said those are her favorite shutter speeds, and that's her go-to setting. Wait, it gets better. And it all makes no sense because at no point does she mention what aperture she's using or what ISO.
Right.
She doesn't explain why she chooses these numbers. And there's a bunch of people in the comments who said, thanks for the tips. Helped me immensely.
I think they probably were just being patronizing. They couldn't be serious. I mean, first of all, you just wonder if that comment is serious and she's just trying to throw off up-and-coming photographers by confusing them because it's an absurd generalization to make. I don't even understand where you get that from to come out with a generalization like that.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Right, again, and then don't even couple it with ISO or
it's not even the exposure triangle, nor not even the exposure line. It's just the exposure point in space. There's no.
I don't even.
There's no. Yeah, it's the golden shutter speed.
Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe you know what? I don't even know what they were thinking. My guess when it's that absurd is they're just trying to throw bad information out there to throw people off. I think it's maybe malicious.
Yeah.
I really do.
Possibly.
Because there's nothing I can think of where that would make any kind of sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's possibly true. All right, next one. Telling someone that all pros only shoot manual, and you have to shoot manual to be a pro.
I've got some strong opinions.
I think you should be able to.
I think, this is just me talking, and, people can, any way you get paid, any way the client's happy.
Yeah.
I think that if you ran my camera's metadata, I'm just trying to think which two bodies I have right now. Of the two bodies I have right now, they've probably got near 400,000 shutter clicks on them, the two that I use right now. And I guarantee you, of that 400,000, over 99.99% are manual. I don't shoot any other mode but manual. That's just what I do. I think that's a way you master your equipment and you master understanding the situations around you. That is the way I teach my 15-year-old, is to shoot manual, because it just makes you think more. And the more you think, the better you become, and then the less you think, because now it's just second nature. I'm trying to think if there's a situation where I shoot aperture, shutter, or program, and I can't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's
that's time lapse.
I think I shoot mostly aperture priority during ceremonies, depending on where it is. If it's outside, or if the light can change dramatically wherever it is, I'm shooting aperture priority. Because if I'm outside and a cloud could come over and darken the situation, I shoot aperture, just because I don't want things to be incredibly wildly different.
It's just a little thumb wheel, Casey.
I know, but things can change very quickly. And I learned this from my early days as a photographer. I was shooting bands with film. I was shooting, live bands, and the light situation would change so dramatically, quickly, and then change to something completely different in a couple seconds. Before you can adjust, the lights change to something else. For the ceremonies, that's what I do. When it comes to portraits, it would really depend on the situation. I would say probably maybe 10 to 20% of the time I'm shooting aperture priority on portraits. During receptions, I'm almost always manual. Again, it depends on all right, is this outside in the during the day, going into the night. But most of the time, I'm setting my settings manually because I'm shooting with off-camera flash and whatever. I'm controlling the light. But I will say there are some times if I'm photographing my dog, I'm shooting aperture priority, just because she can run in and out of shadows and very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and everyone does things differently. I am one of those manual all the time, master your equipment. That's just how I do it. I will say that when my second shooters shoot any program mode, whether it's aperture priority or shutter priority, that editing those images is a real pain in the ass because I'll get 3 shots from a conference room,
and they're all different.
And I can see that they shot aperture priority because the metadata first of all comes up in the Lightroom window on the upper left, and it says 60th of a second, 40th of a second, 50th of a second. I'm like, oh, dude, what did you do? And then those are little adjustments that you have to make to each image to make them look consistent once you go through the first group of edits, is because the aperture bounced. I mean, it's never the same. So for me personally,
I mean, I hear what you're saying. It also aids in the editing. It's easier to edit those fewer photos where the manual settings didn't match up with whatever the lighting situation was, and adjust around those than to do it, on every picture you're doing it something slightly different. I totally understand.
I will say this as a little inside pro tip. Snobby editors will check your metadata. Just putting that out there as a pro tip to anyone that's listening. Snobby editors. You know those people that always wanted to be pro photographers, but now they're just photo editors? Not that there's anything wrong with that. They can be those people that can really be over your back and over your shoulder when you're shooting, asking you why, and say, I used to do this. A lot of those people will check your metadata. I know I'm not the only one that's telling you that, because someone else has said it to me as well. They'll be like, hey, what's with this P mode you're shooting here?
Professional mode. That's professional mode.
Professional mode. I will say that for golden hour time lapses, for Holy Grail time lapses, it's the better word. For Holy Grail time lapses, there are combinations of aperture priority and or program star modes that can make your Holy Grail time lapses really cool. And if anyone doesn't understand what I'm talking about, they need to Google or go to YouTube and look up.
Yeah, because you also want a consistent, like lighting look, as opposed to
right. And as opposed to just sitting out there and manually doing it by hand for 6 hours.
It can take a lot of time. A lot more attention to your time lapse than you wanted to spend.
Yeah, a lot more attention to the time lapse than you want to spend. I like to sleep during my time lapse in the car. Not to do.
Next one: shoot low res or JPEG to save space.
Garbage. It's not even what we're talking about. It's garbage. It's not even what we're talking about.
Moving on. An 85 1.2 is sharpest at f8, which is sort of like saying a Ferrari gets the best gas mileage at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, is an 85? I mean, I guess all of it. Listen, no lens is sharpest at the extremes.
No.
But if a reputable company, any of the big manufacturers, is going to make a Prime 1.2 or a Prime 1.4, and that's why they're selling it, it's going to be pretty damn good at that 1.2, 1.4, 1.8.
It should be.
That's the selling point. It's going to be pretty good. If your naked eye can tell the difference, then you're better than I am.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we know that it's not going to be at its quote unquote sharpest at the extreme, wide open, but that's not why you have it. Again, it's like it's the sports car analogy. Like, I can get better mileage if I drive really slow.
Yeah, I drive 55 on the turnpike, right? But then why'd you get the car in the first place? Yeah.
It's like why when I'm passing you driving your pimped out, like got the blower on it, 69 Mustang, why do you have this car and you're driving 50?
Yeah.
And come on, man. Like, you don't buy a muscle car to drive the speed limit.
Right.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Next.
Oh, but I would kill for an 85 1.2 Prime, by the way. If you're giving those away on Nerdy Photographer.
Not yet.
If you're having a raffle or something.
Not yet. But,
if you want to put a raffle out there for 85 1.2, let me know. I want to buy a couple of tickets for that raffle.
Somebody wants to give one away. I'm more than happy to. I have a 1.4 Sigma Art.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazingly sharp. Amazingly sharp.
I bet it's gorgeous.
I bet it's
gorgeous. I bet it makes great work.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's heavy as hell.
Yep. Weight has never been an issue in equipment for me. It's never been a deal breaker. It's fine. If you have the money for a sweet 85 1.4, go get yourself one, or a 24 1.2 or whatever they're making now, and you're shooting video with it. You're going to use it. You're going to love it.
Yeah. Next, you should always shoot in the golden hours.
Yeah, we all should.
That'd be awesome if it was all day long and inside. If there was some way for us to get the light inside.
Yeah, it would be great if the bride had the the walking down the aisle at sunrise and then the reception at sunset. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, all outside.
I would love that.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
George, golden hour, it'd be wonderful. I'd be the best photographer on the planet. My images would be amazing.
Yeah.
Those long shadows of the bride and groom kissing at sunrise or sunset. That'd be great.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Next one.
Silhouette mom and dad against the barn. Oh, yeah, it'd be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Life would be easy. Last one.
Yeah.
When I first started, someone recommended that I should create a new Lightroom catalog for every session that I shoot.
Yeah, no, don't do that. There are you still come across people that talk about creating new catalogs for different jobs, or they have a catalog like for wildlife and a catalog for corporate. I've been using Lightroom, I think, since it came out, and I have not figured out why I would want to have separate catalogs. I haven't really had anyone explain to me why that would work. Now, obviously, the size of your catalog can bog down your machine, and I do a lot of I have a lot of techniques and workflows to get things out of my catalog and just on the backup drives. And you learn really quickly that if you only flag something and you import it, Lightroom does not save the flag status, which I don't know what does that. They save color status and star rating, but they don't save flag status. So you learn that really quickly and you never do it again.
Yeah. I think that the only reason that I could see it is if you were traveling, and you do more traveling than I do. I mean, the only thing that I could think of was like you create on one device, like say you're like mobile, like whatever your laptop or whatever, and you're creating, or if you're mobile storage, if you have like more storage at home that you're transporting this onto when you get home, you might create a catalog for like your mobile stuff. That's the only thing I can think of. You're editing mobily and then you're, importing when you get home. That's the only thing I can think of. But no, you don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, I have to. If someone out there that hears our voice, a working pro, has a reason that they have multiple catalogs, I'd like someone to shoot you an email at Nerdy Photographer and explain that to us.
Yes. Email me at info@nerdyphotographer.com. Send me an email and let me know why. I mean, I have I separate out each year of weddings into their own catalog. Like I have a different, 2019, 2020, whatever, for weddings, engagement sessions, because I do a lot of them. And as you said, the more photos you have in there, it can slow it down. So it works a lot faster for me to do it by year. But not for every shoot.
Yeah, I really don't know. I'd like to hear from someone. If there's a Lightroom pro, somebody who works for Adobe that's listening to this.
My.
If you reach with Nerdy Photographer, that would be wonderful.
Somebody at Adobe who listened to this podcast, that would be wonderful.
That'd be wonderful, right?
When are we getting those live image things? If you're Adobe, when is that happening? Those things are making 3D video, making a video out of a still image. I saw that last year at whatever Adobe World or whatever when they announced that. I'm still waiting for that to be released.
So wait, just again to me. What are they doing?
They're extrapolating a video, a short, almost like a 3-dimensional video, from a still photo, and it creates a little panning 5-second video out of that still image.
Can't you do something like that on your iPhone? Isn't there a 3D?
You're talking about when your iPhone portrait mode, when you upload to Facebook, it gives you the option to have 3D. But the problem with that is that it because it has a stereoscopic effect to it, because it's two different cameras taking the picture at the same time.
Oh, is that how they're doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's how they're doing it.
There's a lot of edge issues with that. If you look,
there's a lot of math going on.
You look at as you move around the 3D and that in Facebook, you can see the issues around the edges of somebody's face or whatever. You can see where things kind of get stretched, and it's just digital interpolation. And with this, watching the video of it, it was incredible. I was just they had picture of like an island, like one of the, it looks like it came out of, like Count of Monte Cristo or something, like the island, it just sort of like sits up out of the water, like a big rock formation. And they took the still image and they ran it through whatever their mumbo jumbo magic box processor that Adobe has. And like it comes out and it's just like, it looks like a video of somebody like going by in a boat.
Oh, you got to send me a link to that. They have a sample of that somewhere. Please send me that link.
Yeah, they're just like, there were only like 2 or 3 samples, and they're like, yeah, we're hoping to have this out in the next year. And I feel like I saw this like a year ago, and I'm like, oh man, get that done. That would be so awesome. Because it's kind of an effect. They were talking about it like they wanted it to. It's something that you can kind of do. It's like a parallax effect that you can sort of do in After Effects. But like so many people do it in After Effects, and it takes a lot of time that they wanted to devote, like they create something that you could do it. Just that. And my guess is that it's going to be a standalone, like one of their web applications is my guess. It's not going to be like a plugin in Photoshop. It's going to be like Spark or whatever. You're just going to upload your photo and they're going to process it, on their end.
So is this almost like, am I thinking of this right? Like you take a still and they almost make one of these like Matrix kind of 360.
No, not 360. It's sort of like a panning shot. Like, and you can tell which way you want to pan. I mean, it can be up and down or left or right. It's one or the other. And it's not super far. Like I said, it's like 5 seconds, and it's just like it's like camera movement is what it creates.
Almost like a Ken Burns effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Send me a link to that if you find something like that. I'd like to see what they're working towards with that.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll actually post it when this episode goes up. I'll include a link to it as well in the post on the Nerdy Photographer page. All right, I think that's a good place to end. That was the last one. Thanks for seeing me.
No problem. I'm glad we got that whole other thing cleared up.
Yeah, I have to say, you scared me pretty bad when you told me I only had 6 months to live.
And you would have. In the Wild Wild West. But luckily, we have creams for that these days.
I appreciate it.
But I didn't ask you to come in to discuss life-saving salves and ointments.
What is it, Doc?
It's your WordPress website. It's old and outdated, and it needs a fresh new look.
I know, Doc. But I just don't have the money to pay a designer for a custom website.
You don't need to pay for a custom design when you use Flow Themes.
Flow Themes?
Yes, Flow Themes. They have a wide variety of WordPress themes for the modern creative. Not just photographers, but for videographers, florists, wedding planners, and much more.
But are they customizable to suit my needs?
Yes, every theme is totally customizable. Flow Themes has even launched a new line of Flex themes, which allows you to customize your website further than ever before while maintaining a cohesive, professional-looking theme.
Where can I get one, Doc?
Go to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/flow themes to learn more and see what they have to offer.
Thanks, Doc. I really appreciate it.
Good. But now we're going to need to talk about what's wrong with your uvula.
My uvula? What is it?
It's a small teardrop-shaped piece of soft tissue that hangs down in the back of your throat, but that's not important right now. Well, you better start listening, 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 better start listening.
Hey. And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
Anthony, did you know that in the last 4,000 years, no new animals have been domesticated?
No new animals. We got cows and dogs and birds and.
We've not domesticated any new animals.
4,000 years we haven't domesticated any new animal species?
Nope.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because when you think about it, like birds and stuff like that, and nothing.
The Egyptians had them. The Egyptians had dogs and cats and birds.
Yep.
Wow.
Snakes and lizards and whatever.
Wow.
It's a crazy world we live in. As much as we think change happens, it doesn't always happen very fast.
Cool. That's something to think about. That'll help me sleep tonight as I'm thinking about that.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Okay, so you're awesome. It's always great to be here. Be safe. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands again after that. I'd like to thank our guest, Anthony Collins, for being with us on this episode. If there does happen to be anyone at Adobe who is listening who can answer the questions we had about Lightroom and the hashtag Moving Stills project, I'd love to hear from you. And you know what? You don't have to work at Adobe. If you have any answers to those questions, please let us know. And either way, you can always reach out to us on our website, nerdyphotographer.com, on Facebook at Nerdy Photographer, or on Instagram and Twitter at The Nerdy Photo. Please be sure to subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It actually helps a lot by boosting our ranking. And now, let's get those directions. I know. Thanks for waiting while I wrap things up. Are these your friends? Oh, the Caribbean Nebula. I have the coordinates. We just need directions so we don't hit an asteroid field or a wormhole on the way there. Great. I appreciate the help. Okay, folks, I should probably write down all of this information. Until next time, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.